In February, more than 100,000 people tried to cross the southwest border. About 70% were sent back, 30% let in, putting a burden on our stretched-thin detention facilities. Republican Senator Shelley Moore Capito went with Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas to the border. I asked her what she saw and what surprised her.
What I saw was overcrowded facility, a facility that was built for 1,000 adults, and there were 1,100 children there. I saw a workforce that's just working great in terms of the border, doing what they can, but they're faced with such incredible challenges. I saw a lot of, we saw some of the physical barriers, but really what we heard was we need to have certainty. We need to have this flow of children to dwindle, because it's just more and more every night. And the one thing I saw was a facility, a HHS facility that was built for 570 children that only had 78 children in it. Why are they keeping children in the processing center when the next step is for them to go to HHS? That I never got a good answer to. I just think it's a big mess that the administration should have been able to anticipate because of all the rhetoric leading up to this point.
1,100 are in a facility for 1,000. Is that taking into consideration social distancing, or are these numbers created in anticipation of no social distancing?
They are within a foot of one another, and there's no social distancing. And they don't test them when they first come in. They don't test them until they get to HHS. So you don't know what kind of infection rate there is, although it is higher coming in than it is in our entire country. President Trump worked with Mexico to come up with the Remain in Mexico program as a deterrent for people to coming. If you come and file your asylum claim, but you have to wait for it in Mexico, that's a deterrent. And a lot of people just went home. And so the administration, this administration, totally upended that program. And then you see this enormous amount of people coming.
Obviously, this burden, at least in the short run, falls mostly on the border states. How do you explain to the non-border states, like your West Virginia, my home state of Wisconsin, that this is an important issue to them? How does it impact them?
Well, I think the way it impacts them is once these children are pushed into the interior of our country, it becomes a part of our fabric of every state. And that means, education system, healthcare system, and others. I think another issue that's really, I think, affects certainly my state very deeply is the seizures of drugs has gone way up. So let's think about it. If you've got border agents who are diverted into trying to apprehend unaccompanied minors that are coming into this country, what are they doing on the drug interdiction? The drug interdiction obviously is secondary to human interdiction. And I think that I'm very concerned about more drugs coming into this country, and that affects all of our states.
Turning now to what happened in Colorado this past week, are you open to any sort of new gun legislation?
Certainly that tragedy in Colorado, again, is just very hard to bear. And I think about going to the grocery store myself and thinking about all the people that you see that work there that you know. And so my heart goes out to that community. I know it's very, very tough. I have been very strong on Second Amendment. I have a state that's very strong on Second Amendment. I'll look and see what's coming over, but I'm not going to make I know what's coming over from the House is probably way too drastic. So we'll just see what comes through on the Senate side. We just passed in a bipartisan way, unanimous, big water and drinking water infrastructure package, a 5-year package, which is great. We're going to do the same thing with surface transportation. Here's my problem. $3 trillion social infrastructure on top of this. I mean, this is just a reshaping of the definition of infrastructure, number one, but also reshaping the way that we've always addressed these problems, which are together, whether it's roads, bridges, ports, airports, broadband, whatever we would consider infrastructure. Does this country want to provide free community college? That's part of this bill. Pre-K for every state. I mean, that's what I'm reading. They haven't come out with the entire bill yet. I haven't seen it, but this is what the pre-reports are. These are discussions that we should be having all across the board. You're really disenfranchising a great part of the country when you don't include when you don't include other voices.
Jobless claims last week were down to 657,000, which is the lowest since the pre-pandemic. But with the thought of a $3 trillion infrastructure bill on the table, where are we going to get the money? And what happens? Who's paying for this?
Well, it's total debt. Our future generations are paying for this, unless the program that the Democrats put forward is massive tax hikes, which I think that's what they have in mind. I don't think a time when we're coming out of a pandemic, coming out of a downturn of an economy, is a time to jack people's tax rates up to when they're just now getting their businesses back up and running again.
Well, much of this hinges on the filibuster, and the filibuster rule doesn't seem like it's going to get changed. It seems like the linchpin of this is your colleague in the Senate, Senator Manchin, a Democrat. What do you think is going to happen with filibuster? Is it eventually going to go away?
I'm very concerned about this. I hope that Senator Manchin stays strong. He's certainly a strong individual, so I expect him to in his opposition of breaking the filibuster. But he's going to be under tremendous pressure. We know that. I think that you hear ideas such as, oh, we can break the filibuster for one bill and not the other. No, you open that door, that door's open for the rest of the time. We need to keep the filibuster to remain the institution that is sort of the cooling idea arena from what comes over from the House, so we can forge bipartisan agreement. We did it under tremendous pressure from President Trump to the leader. He kept saying, break the filibuster to Senator McConnell. We didn't do it. We didn't even really talk about it. And because we know how important it is to have that 60 vote threshold to be able to have policies that stand the test of time. So if we break the filibuster, then this year we're going to do this. What are we going to do next year when the shoe's on the other foot? We're going to undo everything. I mean, I think the filibuster will hold, but I think it's going to be very intense as we move through this.